We begin today in Turkey, where grief has been accompanied by a surge of anger against the Turkish government over Saturday's bombings, which killed nearly 100 people and wounded hundreds more. Many Turks have denounced the government for failing to take adequate measures to prevent the attack on a pro-Kurdish peace rally in the capital, Ankara. Others have gone further and have accused the government of facilitating the bomb blasts by fueling anti-Kurdish sentiment in the community. Anne Barker has the latest.
A day after the bombings, the overwhelming sentiment was grief as relatives of the 95 people killed on Saturday struggled to come to terms with their loss. What I saw was a massacre, says one man. I haven't slept since yesterday. One mother was overcome with grief. Mourners gathered at a hillside cemetery in Ankara for the first of many funerals. I wish I was dead, another man says. To witness this and to be alive now is too terrible. But alongside the grief, there's mounting anger at the Turkish government, which resumed military attacks on Kurdish militants after a peace deal collapsed in June. Funerals turned into protests, with mourners accusing the government of neglecting security and allowing the attacks to happen. Thousands at a funeral in Istanbul began shouting slogans against the government. Killer government will be held accountable for its crimes, said one. And the White Palace wants war, the people want peace, said another. At the scene of the blast, scuffles broke out as police stopped mourners and pro-Kurdish politicians from laying flowers for the victims. Tensions erupted over who was to blame. The leader of the pro-Kurdish HDP party said the government had blood on its hands and urged Turks to end President Erdogan's rule in next month's elections. Selahattin Demirtas said the bombings were part of the same campaign against the Kurds by government forces since June. In London and France too, Kurds marched in solidarity.
This Turkish state had labelled the Kurdish people, the socialists, the Democrats as terrorists. But we know the real terrorists.
The Turkish government denies any involvement in the weekend bombings and says its investigators are still working to identify the perpetrators. The Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu suggested any of several groups could have been to blame, including Islamic State, the Kurdistan Workers' Party or a far-left group. No group has claimed responsibility. Gareth Jenkins is a Senior Associate Fellow with the Joint Centre's Silk Road Studies Programme and Turkey Initiative in Istanbul.
I think we can rule out Kurdish militants automatically. A lot of the people who were there at the rally would have been sympathetic to the Kurdish militants, at least sympathetic to their cause. I don't think there's any doubt when you look at this as a double suicide bombing that these are going to be Islamist militants.
But equally, Gareth Jenkins says he doesn't believe the Turkish government was involved, despite widespread perceptions in Turkey that it was.
My feeling is that the government didn't instigate this attack, but when you talk to Kurdish nationalists and people who left the centre and opponents generally of President Erdogan, they're increasingly beginning to believe that the Erdogan and the security services are directly involved. It's not my opinion, but it is very widespread amongst a lot of people in Turkey.
Whoever is to blame for Saturday's bombings, it seems certain the bloodshed will exacerbate tensions between the state and Kurdish militants.
Anne Barker reporting.